Hey guys, Dantixy back with some even more Dragon Age Veilguard details. The devs jumped on Discord and answered a lot of people's burning questions, some that will definitely get a lot of you hyped. I'll also cover some pretty key interviews with media outlets. All this information congealed into some kind of red lyrium hype demon amalgamation. To defeat this demon, you have to listen close because in this video, I'm talking gear themes, background combinations, UI, thirst, sniper options, changing looks, character creator, PC viability, dlss, support, party banner, crafting, skeleton sex, blood magic, tactical information, more than 3 abilities, inky, the griffin companion, death, changing locations, marabi, hounds, a skill tree, specializations within specializations, the level cap, difficulty, bolt size, triangle of girth, and more. Wait, the demon is still there. Its only weakness is hitting that like and sub button. Quick. Okay, let's start with an easy one. When asked what year does Veilguard take place, Brendan Home answers 9 to 10 years from Dragon Age Inquisition and about 8 years from Trespasser. After the Trespasser DLC, Solus and the Inquisitor part ways, with the Inquisitor promising to stop him. It does seem to have been 9 to 10 years of chasing Solus down across Thedas when you reach the start of the Veilguard, but confirmed by Michael Gamble, you'll get backstory to what happened in those missing years. It does seem to me like this is a better starting point anyway, since it begins with a bang. How does the character creator compare with Dragon's Dogma 2? To which Brennan responds, I mean, I'm biased, I like ours better. I think there'll probably be more information on the character creator in the next while, it's a pretty dense topic. One of the main things that I think I'd mention is the work we put into strand-based hair, which looks gorgeous. The art and graphics team spent a lot of time trying to make it look fabulous, and I think they've done a great job. But I think what Lucas was asking is if we'll have the flexibility we had in Dragon's Dogma 2, wherein we could actually make attractive people with a vast range of combinations, including, sure, hairstyles, but also extending to other features people find attractive. But don't worry, Lucas, I got you. We have confirmation from the devs that you can increase your bulge and glute size. According to Rock Paper Shotgun, the creator lets you customize your bulge size if you play around with what they call the triangle of girth. But no confirmation on breast size just yet, Lucas. I'm sorry. I know you really wanted to know. I kid. It'll only be a matter of time before we find out more, since they plan on showcasing it, and we know the devs are thirsty creatures. No judgment here at all. Embrace the thirst. You see here, she promises you they will embrace it. My impression is that there will be some pretty risque scenes. As per my last video, nudity and spice scenes are confirmed. Will there be a Black Emporium shop where we can change our characters later in the game? There's a way for you to modify your character's look once the game has started if you want to make some tweaks. So that's a no. You can probably finalize your character after the introduction or tutorial area, similar to how Fallout 4 does it once you're preparing to leave the vault. Or perhaps there's some other mechanics there to change how you'll look once you start. Though, to be honest, I've never really cared too much about changing looks mid-game. Gear does that just fine. Maybe just spend a little longer than half a day in the character creator and you won't need to change. Could we be able to spec as an archer and use other types of bows for long-range combat? Like, will we be able to sniper with a longbow, or will we only be using short bows for quick shots like we see in the gameplay trailer? One of the skill trees for rogues is more focused on ranged combat, and it's pretty viable to go almost pure ranged. Honestly, maybe a bit OP at the moment. So we can't be sure if it'll still be OP at release, so don't go playing your builds right now. But it's good to hear that you get a proper archer focused build. Naturally, you have to assume they'll have options in melee still, as you can slot in both bows and melee weapons at the same time, but it seems like it would be a last resort, a get off me style attack. When asked about gear, specifically if there'll be faction themed gear, dressing the part of a Grey Warden for example, the devs confirmed that yes, there sure is. To follow up, will there be an Inquisition themed gear? Brennan responded, as a faction, the Inquisition doesn't really feature prominently in the story. Your appearance options are more reflective of the other factions and styles you'll encounter in the Veilguard. So this is a new game, and focusing on a disbanded group doesn't seem like it's going to happen. However, you'll be able to customize your character to look more like the factions that have already been revealed, such as the Antivan Crows, Grey Wardens, Shadow Dragons, Veil Jumpers, Lords of Fortune, and the Morn Watch. All of these factions are also represented by a companion in your party. Can a mage be an Antivan Crow, or a non-mage be a Morn Watch Necromancer? So literally any combo of race, class, and faction is possible, including a Dwarf Mage. Dwarves can't use magic. Some exceptions may apply, so yes, almost any combination. So like I'd expect, you can pick any background, race, and class combination, except when it comes to dwarfs, because they can't become mages no matter how hard they try. I'm thinking of that little dwarf girl in Origins. I'm sure some combinations will be more exciting to you than others. For me, a Canary Grey Warden, for example. Can we expect old faces to make reappearances? I for one would be interested to see the hero of Ferelden again, with or without his companions, maybe even his child all grown up, since it's been 10 years. The answer is, you'll see some familiar faces for sure. Now this really doesn't answer if we will actually see the hero of Ferelden. I think it's unlikely, as the Grey Wardens have reduced lifespans, and my assumption is he travelled to the Deep Roads to fight Darkspawn until he died, but I would be pleasantly surprised if not. We will for sure be seeing the Inquisitor, since it's confirmed you'll be crafting their appearance and backstory. Will we be able to keep an eye on our companion's health through the UI after the prologue is completed? Yes, your follower information will be visible on the HUD, cooldowns, health, etc. So the HUD we saw was a toned down prologue or tutorial version, whereas past that section we'll be seeing vital information like cooldowns and health. The clean look is nice, but we definitely need more information at a glance, and you can customize it to an extent. Will HUD be configurable? For example, tinker with its opacity and size, make it fade over time. The answer is not everything, but there's a bunch of different interface options you can play with. So things like when to display, health bars, combat text size, opacity, etc. To be clear, you can't go crazy, but there are a bunch of options if you want fewer things on the screen or some alternate ways of having some elements activate. So I personally like combat text, but I know other people don't, so you'll be able to tune what you see to your liking, seemingly within reason. Will we be able to keybind our bigger spells / actions, or will we have to open the ability wheel every time? Answer is, there's a quick cast option if you prefer not to use the wheel. Should be a coordinate action using a controller, and we've seen in the gameplay this skill was mapped to square. So I'm guessing PC players will be able to use a key, like the number keys for example, to cast spells as well, making the wheel more useful for console players, though PC players don't feel excluded. Will this game be best played on PC or controller, or will it be pretty solid on both? The answer is, I think it'll come down to your personal preference. I play on keyboard and mouse, but using a controller also feels good too. The fact that one of the devs plays on PC gives me hope that we aren't forgotten. I personally prefer to play on PC, but I can always pick up a controller if need be.
But I don't want to!
Will Dragon Age 4 have DLSS support at launch? Yes, we will. Simple question and simple answer. I don't see this as the kind of game that really utilizes it well, but at least you'll get some good frames during that frantic combat. When it comes to banter, like the ones you get riding elevators in Mass Effect, there's apparently more than other games, and it's incorporated in all aspects of companion story. I'm not sure to what extent this goes, but sounds like with a reduced companion pool size, they've focused drastically on increasing the range of each individual. They've also mentioned that companions will have a life outside of you and outside of your missions. I'm not sure how this translates, but at the very least expect them to be doing things at the Lighthouse, your hub area, that doesn't involve you. Speaking of, the Lighthouse will change over time and has a similar narrative purpose as Skyhold did in the Inquisition. One of the things you can do in the Lighthouse is pet and even hug the Griffin you saw in the trailer. In fact, it seems as though there are a lot more options involving the Griffin that they won't go into. Crafting is apparently back in the game, but involves some sort of entity or powers and is a big spoilery area, so I doubt we'll hear more about how you'll get to do it and how you'll get access. Though, as you know with Dragon Age games or Bioware games in general, there has to be something given to you that makes you feel special. In Origins it was demon blood, for example, so what is it in Veilguard? Something is going to happen. Missions are also immediately relevant to what you're doing. So if you're currently doing a task to save the world, your side content will be involving that. They also provide perspective on characters in the world. Everything is handcrafted and intentional. Speaking of the world, locations can and will fundamentally change based on the decisions that you make. Think whole new area when you drain the ocean, like in Storm Coast. So here's a weird one. You can't kiss the old man, but seemingly you can kiss a skeleton. So perhaps he has some freaky necromancy related romance scenes for those into the strange, I guess? No judgment here. No, I lie, there absolutely is judgment here. Why is this a thing? Necrophilia romances over attractive people? I get a Bioware, I've got my eyes on you. So like mentioned before, the missions are handcrafted. The devs confirm there won't be fetch quests. This doesn't confirm that there won't be mundane tasks, but at least we won't get the worst of the worst. Moving on, companions have unique specializations but fall into mage, rogue, or warrior. For example, Bellara is a mage and Neve is the only ice mage. One of your mage abilities also lets you slow time, and Neve also gets access to that. We also saw that yes, healing spells are back. It is confirmed though that blood magic is in the game, but your character can't use it. There are story reasons as to why, and they won't elaborate further. I see a lot of people in my comments talking about if blood magic is coming back, so I'm sorry to say, it is and it isn't. I think Dragon Age 2 was the last time that we really got to play around with it, but I really don't mind that it's not here. I've always personally preferred straight damage from fire and lightning, for example, but I understand if you're upset. Speaking of elemental damage, you won't get Cone of Cold or Fireball back, but instead get upgraded versions, Frost Nova and Meteor, for example. Your character, as a mage, has access to Necromancy, Elemental, and Combat Magic specializations. According to an interview with PlayStation Lifestyle, Veilguard's skill trees are absolutely enormous. They also explain the skill tree's structure, comparing it to a spiderweb or the sphere grid from Final Fantasy X. The basic mage, warrior, and rogue class skills are at the center of the grid. Abilities get more advanced as the player moves outwards, with the specialization trees arranged on the outer ring. Players should expect to reach a specialization around mid-game. According to RPGsite.net, a few missions in, you'll unlock the skill tree right away. Every level up you get skill points, of course. The skill tree is absolutely enormous and it is bespoke for your class. So when we talk about the specializations, we know that the skill trees can be overwhelming to the players as well. So what I love, I'll try to paint a picture for you. When it's unlocked, imagine almost a gigantic spiderweb-like visual. And if I'm a mage, right at the very center is the core of the mage kit. This is heavily influenced absolutely by Final Fantasy X, one of my all-timers. I will tell you that 12, especially the Zodiac edition, is my favorite. The level of ability selection, passives, and in our case also traits. The organization is more similar to the sphere grid, so Final Fantasy 12 might be my top 3 favorite games. I'm highly influenced by that when it comes to our progression. What we've done though, to make it more accessible, is that each of our specializations is in the outer edge of the grid. Yeah, I know where I'm going to start. I have an idea of which specialization looks or sounds the coolest, and that really aids players in charting their course so they're not just lost to the wild. And we even put some helper labels along the way, so it's divided into 3 sections in addition to the specializations. In the case of Warrior, for instance, you have a section that's more defense orientated, one that's more weapons orientated, and one that's more abilities orientated. So what you might do trying to get to, say, the Reaper specialization is go, rather than going up through defense to Reaper, I'm going to go down through ability into Reaper. Whoa, she was really all over the place with that one. So it seems like we'll truly have a lot of customizational options. Keep in mind the grid had a lot of ways to upgrade your character passively to really fine-tune your style. You can be a defensive, life-stealing Reaper, for example, or focus more on ability-based damage. So there are specializations within the specialization. When asked about the level cap, we have a cap of 50. One of my frustrations with some other games that have similar skill tree systems is that getting up to the specialization might take absolutely all of your skill points, and then you have nothing else. We're exactly the opposite. You get to your specialization about mid-game, and then you can really branch out. They also mentioned that the combat will be tactical, especially on higher difficulties. The tactics they're referring to rely on weaknesses and resistances, the combat wheel that lets you pause the action, and especially companion synergies. For instance, Bellara, who's that elf mage that uses a bow in the trailer, yes, a mage with a bow, has a gravity well ability that pairs well in combination with other mages' time stop and a rogue rook's AoE damage ability. So to elaborate on the combat pausing and bringing up the ability wheel, it wasn't shown yet, but it will display strategic information on enemies such as vulnerabilities, elemental weaknesses, resistances, and enhancements. So yes, there are only 3 ability slots for Rook, but expect more actions. You get an ultimate ability tied to your class and specialization choice, and you also get items that function like abilities. These are buffs or enhancements in the form of runes on your gear. The world reacts to your race choice like you'd expect, so if you play as a dwarf, you get a reaction for that and for your backstory, giving you unique conversational options. Dwarfs also get, as you'd want, glorious physics-based beards. So you might be wondering, can I customize my companion's looks as well? It seems as though companions have a wider range of appearances than the one you've seen. Some will tie into the narrative and some won't. So yes, it seems Nev won't be stuck with that ridiculous hat. No, shush, it's not cool. Here's the sad one though, no, you can't have marabi hound companions. That's because you spend most of your time in northern Thedas, which is a long way from Ferelden. Yes, you can piss off companions enough that they will leave. Well, they leave for a time, then return as you're dealing with, quote, the biggest threat that Thedas has ever seen, though the devs throw in that they will come back unless ... Meaning that maybe there's a way to get them killed. I really hope so. I'll be the first one to do an everyone dies run. So like I mentioned, the Inquisitor, who fans called Inky, does make an appearance in the game. You can customize their looks to your liking and choose the choices that matter for them. Solus and Inky's stories are apparently tied together, which means how you choose to leave Trespasser will actually matter. Now when it comes to difficulty, Forbes reveals that there is an option in the difficulty settings that can make your character effectively invincible, incapable of ever dying in battle. That actually may not be as ludicrous as it sounds. After all, if the combat isn't great, it might just be better to play this game for the story. Look, some people want to come home after a long day and feel like an invincible badass, and that's okay. Unlike skeleton sex, no judgment here. The most amount of judgment will come if you don't hit that like and subscribe button. I put a lot of effort getting these videos out to you fast without the fluff, so the least you can do is click a few times for me, because I sure as hell know you'll be clicking like mad through all those nasty sex scenes, right? So thanks for watching guys. For all things RPG, you're in the right place. Ciao friends.